Today I want to talk to you about a cool thing that I think I did with a vocal chop, which can actually be a cool starting point to a brand new track. Basically, I just grabbed myself a vocal from Splice, this one.
I heard you call, I'm reaching out to feel alive, to make you mine.
Which in itself is already looking dope. Those cool harmonies that it has, it's already cool. I just grabbed the vocal, opened a new Celestric channel, and then I started chopping it up. You know, when chopping up vocals, I tend to just keep the vowels and try to avoid having a lot of consonants so that you don't really have those artifacts that are usually, you know, those S's and P's and P and all of those sounds that are not really pleasing to the ear, especially in vocal chops. And I ended up with all of these cool sounds. And then, well, I just clicked here, drum score to piano roll, and then I have all of these different sounds. And then I came up with cool melodies. Already looking pretty cool, I think, and I was actually thinking about starting just with this, but then I thought to myself, well, no, let's take this a step further. And then that's when I started processing the vocal. But then I went over to the sampler and I just pitched it up to semitone, put it to stretch mode. This is what I came up with. And then, well, let's talk about the processing in this case. First of all, auto-tune. This is not really doing anything, to be honest, as you can see. Yeah, I'll just leave it there, even though if I removed it, that would be the same. Then I used an auto pitch to lower the formant of the sound to around 2.50. So that it has like more of a manly sounding sound. And then I used an EQ to remove the very highs. In order to make some kind of cool distorted vocal chop and, you know, vocal effect, you kind of don't really want too much of the high frequencies because the distortion is already going to add up too much, a lot of these high frequencies. So you kind of want to remove it before you actually apply the plugin in itself, or before. I mean, it depends what you want to go for. But in this case, I just removed the very highs until 6K, actually 4.5K, and then I removed a little bit of this part. You usually want to be really careful in that around this 1.5K to 3K area. So yeah. And then I added a little bit of volume around the 450 hertz area. After that, I added some distortion, Fruity Blood Overdrive. I mean, it's a pretty cool plugin, simple one, not super cool distortion plugin, but it does the job. So I set the color up so that I have a more harmonic, rich sound in this case, a warmer sound. Set the preamp to like crazy, like 0.6, and then I compensated the volume, lowering it to like 0.3, and then the post filter, I pushed it up to like 0.2. As you can see, this vocal is already pretty wide. You can kind of hear some artifacts in, you know, the stereo image of the vocal. After that, I added more EQ to tame certain frequencies that were actually being added up too much by the distortion. Once again, this area around 2K. And this area as well, so that I don't really muddy up the sound too much. I added some saturation. This is basically a dry send and a wet send, and the wet send has saturation, then EQ after that. The saturation is just this free plugin, which is a saturation knob, which is a pretty cool plugin. Being free, it's a pretty cool saturation plugin. Set this to like 2, and then an EQ so that I can have better control over the frequencies that are being affected by the saturation. Before and after. You know, it's warmer, it's even brighter and clearer, you know, you can understand the melody a little bit more. And then I added another EQ, which is basically the same as this one, but I just, you know, changed this up a little bit, you know. Instead of 400 hertz area, I tamed the frequencies around the 350 hertz, which is basically the same, but yeah. And then after that, I started using, you know, adding some time-based effects like reverb and a H delay. Let's put this to wet so that I can go one by one. First of all, I know I used the patcher so that I could actually add the processing in one bus, and I knew that if I was gonna like apply the plugins in each slot, I wouldn't be able to add more effects to it, and I still wanted to add some processing. So yeah, first of all, like I said, the reverb, this is a preset that I created in patcher, which with a dry send and then a wet send. This limiter is not doing anything, I just put it there, I don't even know why. I guess if I, crank this up a lot, the reverb, I could actually protect my ears. But yeah, the reverb is like this. Low cut to around 420 hertz, decay 1.9 seconds, no delay, no pre-delay actually. The dry is at 0%, wet's 100. And then I have an EQ after so that I can control which frequencies are being reverbed. And then after that, I added H-Delay. This is a cool delay plugin from Waves. Delay is actually playing 8 notes. I turned on lo-fi and I set this to BPM. Feedback lower to around 39 because it was a bit too muddy if I left this as it was. The high pass it's at around 1.2K, low pass at around 623. And I turned the analog off, left it as it is, and I set this to ping pong mode so that I can have more width without phase cancellation. And then after that, I kind of realized that you can kind of hear those artifacts in the stereo width still. I thought that it would actually be a pretty cool effect, so I left it. Sometimes you can actually hear more emphasizing the left ear, I think. Those artifacts caused by the distortion and the, adding up saturation and all that. And I left it because I think it's a pretty cool effect, to be honest. And also because I had no idea how to solve this problem, so yeah. And then after that I added some compression, CLA, for some gain reduction. I just used this preset, which is Sibilant Vox. So that I can, actually glue up the reverb and all the effects. And some RVox, some more compression. -2 decibels. It's a very small amount. It's probably, it's doing very little. So. Before and after the compression. It's just adding up a bit more volume in a more controlled way, in a more glued up way, so yeah. And then finally I added some more reverb. First of all, I added what I call a pitch shifter reverb. I actually learned this from Cashmere. Basically, I have a pitch shifter before the reverb, and it's going 12 semitones up. And then after that, I have a reverb, pretty normal one, low cut to almost 1K, and decay pretty high. And the wet's actually at 125%, not 100%, yeah. And then I added some EQ so that I can control the frequencies better of the reverb. And after that, I added some mid-side EQ, yeah, removing the very low to about 150, putting this zone a little bit down so that I don't really muddy up the stereo image at around 319, raising the highs 4.4 decibels, around that, 3.5 actually, and lowering this area as well, the 2.6K. And this is what I came up with. Before the effects. After the effects. Thank you so much for watching it until the end, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this.